As we journey to the new year, we intend on taking every Jamaican with us. The young, the old, the able, and even those who are physically challenged. Your seats on this journey are just as secured. We'll show you what provisions our state-owned bus company has put in place. Welcome to today's Jamaica Magazine, and we're taking a new route with the same expected outcome, information to fuel your life. Let's start with the day's news.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Wednesday, December 16. In a bid to curtail the rising COVID-19 cases in Westmoreland, Prime Minister Andrew Holness has announced tighter containment measures for the parish. For the next 2 weeks, nightly curfews will start at 7 p.m. and end at 5 a.m. the next day. Public gathering has been reduced to 10 persons, with burials remaining at 15 persons. Additionally, no grand market will be permitted for the parish. In Parliament Tuesday, Mr. Holness said Westmoreland had 117 active COVID cases, 76 of them confirmed as new cases in the past week.
These cases are spread over 80% of the communities in the parish, so that this is widespread. Madam Speaker, the parish recorded a test positivity rate of 32.1% last week, compared to 17.6% the week before. This means that approximately 1 out of every 3 persons tested were positive for the coronavirus. This is over 3 times the national positivity rate of 9.3% for that week.
Prime Minister Holness says 15 of 18 COVID beds at the Savannah Lamar Hospital are now occupied, with overall bed usage at the facility being at 87%. At the same time, he says there is currently an 80 to 90% bed occupancy at the 4 Western regional hospitals.
These troubling trends and the strain on the health system requires immediate action to mitigate the real harm that can occur. I'm making a special appeal for strict observance of all the protocols and measures, and for everyone, particularly those residents of Westmoreland and Hanover, to exercise greater vigilance and restraint.
Mr. Holness says the Ministry of Health will continue to monitor the numbers closely, and if the situation escalates, the measures will be further tightened. Meanwhile, the country's overall COVID-19 cases as at December 14 stood at 11,875. Of that number, 3,234 are active cases, with 8,212 recoveries. Data from the Ministry of Health recorded 3 more deaths, pushing the total to 276. 103 persons were hospitalized, with 21 moderately ill and 17 listed as being critical. Prime Minister Holness says data from the ministry has indicated an upward turn in the epidemiology curve. This, he says, is an earlier acceleration than the December 15 projection for increase in cases, following the return of Jamaicans from overseas after the Thanksgiving period. Government has committed to having every household in the island accessing the internet by 2025. Science and Technology Minister Darrell Vaz told Parliament Tuesday that expanding broadband coverage access across the island was the single most critical imperative facing the country. He said the provision of internet as a public good would form the backbone of the island's post-COVID-19 recovery plan.
The National Information and Communications Technology (ICT) policy positions ICT infrastructure as a strategic resource, the efficient deployment of which is important for the provision of public and private services and access to worldwide markets. This therefore requires a provision of high-capacity networks.
Minister Vaz says current fixed broadband penetration stands at 11.65%, while mobile penetration is at 59.76%. Distribution, however, is skewed to urban areas, with the rural population being unserved or underserved. Mr. Vaz says a national broadband task force has been formed, a broadband strategy is being collated, and a core technical task force formed to drive the implementation of the network. The communities of Denham Town and Tivoli Gardens have seen a high success rate for referral cases through the Ministry of Justice's Alternative Dispute Resolution ADR program for this year. Justice Minister Delroy Chuck says 81 restorative justice conferences were held this year in Denham Town, with 73 of those cases being resolved peacefully. 123 were held in Tivoli Gardens, with 112 peaceful settlements. He says the ministry's use of alternative dispute resolution has also been successful elsewhere, with 1,435 cases in all other parishes this year being referred to ADR and almost 1,100 being settled peacefully.
We want to let Jamaica know that ADR must be a vital, focal priority of resolving disputes in the communities, reducing the burden on the courts, reducing the challenges to the police, and ensuring that when people get into conflict, they resolve their conflicts without resort to abuses, to violence, and oftentimes to death.
The minister was speaking at a recent Access Justice Live virtual town hall meeting. Thousands of Jamaicans employed in the hospitality division of passenger ships are to benefit from enhanced rights protection under the Shipping Amendment Act, which has now been passed by the Senate with 2 amendments. The bill was previously approved by the House of Representatives on November 17 and will now go back to the lower house to ratify the Senate's amendments. Under the new legislation, a wider definition of seafarer has been approved to cover any person engaged by or on behalf of the owner of a ship, including hospitality workers. Leader of Government Business in the Upper House, Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith, says under the existing Shipping Act, only the crew who are responsible for navigating vessels are accorded certain rights.
Clearly, a situation in which one set of employees have a right and others do not is not an enabling environment. And this bill seeks to make better provisions for the maintenance of standards and behaviors within the shipping industry, nationally and internationally, promoting respect for the dignity of each person, notwithstanding the role they perform on a ship.
The amendments to the bill include ensuring that those under age 18 are not assigned to engage in dangerous work without proper supervision, allowing for the free provision of water for seafarers, and making ship owners liable for medical care and burial expenses for seafarers. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
With Jamaica Magazine, no one gets left behind. We're accessing and packing information to help all our people. Now, here's a bit of help for the blind taking public transportation. Their safe journey is guaranteed with the JUTC, and here's how.
From the fingers of political activist Helen Keller came this oft-repeated statement: the worst thing is to be born sighted but lack vision. Among our people are many whose sight is impaired, making it more challenging to navigate the roads of forever changing national space. Over a decade ago, the state-owned bus company had the vision to recognize their need for a public transport system that is accommodating of all Jamaicans.
I lose my sight. It's going from 89, totally blind, 2004. 89 when I check my sight, 5% in the left eye and 95 in the right eye. Everything goes 2004. Well, 2004, I was fretting on it. I hear about Society for the Blind and Mrs. Wallace, who do the training, who train us to take the bus. Train us to go to transport center, walk on the road, walk between light posts, walk on the sidewalk. I prefer to take the JUTC. When I take the bus to the transport center, boy, the customer service is very nice. They ask you where you're going and then take you downstairs or upstairs and then put you on a seat to sit down. Sometimes they wait on you till the bus comes and put you inside the bus and tell the driver, where to let you off.
Since 2005, the JUTC began offering a disabled service, and we did so recognizing that there are other forms of transportation service or operators who do not provide a similar service to members of the disabled community. We recognize that they're an important part of the traveling community, and it is in fact incumbent on us, being a government-run entity, to provide such a service for those who may not otherwise be able to access private transportation services. Over the course of that period, we have also imported several units, several specially designed buses for persons with varying degrees of disability. We have a cadre of customer service representatives who have been introduced to a wide range of customer service related responsibilities and functions. In fact, 10 to 12 of them who are rostered weekly to provide critical care to members of the disabled community. Our customer service agents take them to and from the buses, and of course anywhere within the location of the Harper Tree Transport Center. They also provide sanitary support for them.
I lost my sight last year, February. Taking the transport, sometimes I'm feeling excited. Sometimes, not all times. Because taking the transport, I can miss my steps. When crossing the road, sometimes I'm feeling down. Nervous, like, can't wait to get over it. I can cross in the road, anything can hit me. So those things will run in my intention. Yeah, and hole can be there. And even though the kid will drop in the hole sometime, you can still do wrong things and drop same way. So them something always come up in my thought at all times. Crossing the road, taking the vehicle. And sometimes tears come at my eyes because the way how the person react, people will see me. Some of them will say, you're not blind. And you act like you're blind because your eyes don't look like you're blind.
Part of the training involves engaging the Disabilities Foundation to see how it is that we ought to care for members of the disabled community. So for example, there is in fact a particular standard and protocol in which persons who are blind, for example, ought to be carried around.
One day I was at the bus stop. I took a bus 46 from downtown, and I asked tell the driver, I said, I'm going at Union Square Jug Serve. It was a woman driver, and believe you me, when the lady reached Jug Serve, she stopped the bus on the left side there and come out of the driver's seat and take me across the road right to the Jug Serve. I was so pleased, man. You have some nice driver.
Here's a bit more help, this time for people who may not be so savvy in changing their own tires. We now bring you AutoSpot with step-by-step instructions on how to get the job done.
I have absolutely no idea what this is or what it's even used for. But today on AutoSpot, I'm going to be learning all about tires, and who knows, I might even end up changing one myself.
tire is a ring-shaped component that surrounds the rim, which helps to cushion the road feel and offer traction and stability of the vehicle. You have all-purpose tires, which can use in all terrain. You have wet tires. For wet tires, it's for like wet road condition. You can't use a dry tire in the wet season. You get slippage. For the tire to be completely functional, you need the rim. You need air to be inflated in the tire to get it to the correct air pressure so that it's suitable for road condition. A cold tire is when the temperature inside the tire is reduced to like normal road temperature. At that time is the correct time to check the air pressure within the tire to give you an accurate reading. For the hot tires now is when you're driving on the road for a long duration of time and the heat inside the tire builds up and increases the pressure inside the tire. Tire inflation is the pressure inside the tire, which can be in kilopascal, bars, or PSI. There's an instrument called the tire pressure gauge, which I have here with me, used to take the tire pressure. I can demonstrate for you. First, we'll have to remove the dust cap from off the tire, place the tire pressure gauge on the tire valve, and it automatically pushes out the tire pressure gauge and give you the correct reading.
The driver still needs to play a big role in the safety of the vehicle on the road. Now, we see a lot of vehicles coming into our premises at our body shop, and we see a lot of accidents that could have been easily prevented. People texting, people not paying due care and attention when they're on the road. Now, Jamaica had over 370 odd deaths last year on the road. There's a big target to get it under 300 this year, and that can easily be achievable if people just pay a bit more care and attention when they're driving on the road.
The tyre normally has a manufacture date on the side. From that date in which the tyre was produced, you can know when the tyre needs to be changed. Within 4 to 6 years of the manufacture date, the tyre is due for replacement.
But what if I'm on the road and I have a flat tire, what do I do?
Okay, the first step is to park the vehicle in a secure location, flat surface. Pull up the emergency handbrake, ensure that the vehicle don't run back or anything. Then you gather your tools, including a jack, lug tool for the job. Alright. Here you have the lug. You're gonna place the lug tool on that, ensure that the correct lug tool is fit perfectly, and you push it down in the anti-clockwise position.
Okay.
And you do that for all 5 lugs.
Okay, and it's usually 5 lugs?
No, some vehicles carry 4, some carry 5, some carry 6. But for this application, it's 5.
Okay. So what else do you do after that?
After you remove your lugs, you remove the complete wheel and you have it all for yourself. Then you go for your spare and place it back on here and screw on back. You tighten back your lugs.
Alright, so this is what you use to tighten it back?
Yeah, this is the lug tool.
So you're going in the other direction?
Yeah, clockwise. Turning. And you always tighten diagonal. Right, you tighten in the clockwise direction.
So which one? Which one you tighten first?
It can be anyone, but you have to tighten in diagonal. This, then this, and this. Yeah. Cross and cross. So the wheel go on even. And then let down the vehicle, and then you finally torque the lugs to make sure that they are correctly tight.
Where do we usually find the spare tires?
Alright, depending on the vehicle type, sometimes the spare is under the vehicle, and the back of the trunk, or inside the trunk.
So it's not as simple as it seems, but it's clearly doable. It's all in a day's work, well, at least for a newbie like me. But really, it should take about 10 to 15 minutes to change. I can promise you there's so much value in learning to get the job done. I certainly feel accomplished.
Our next stop takes us to a more personal issue that females can face. Here's a quick feature on endometriosis and its effects on females.
I was always so miserable during my period, for as long as I can remember. The pain was so severe. I remember not having an appetite, nauseous. It was difficult to stand. It felt like a monthly interruption of my life. It continued for years, an endless cycle of suffering. I had no idea what was wrong with me. Then I was diagnosed with endometriosis.
Endometriosis is a chronic, painful condition of women in their reproductive years. So the condition occurs when the tissue that is normally inside the womb, called the endometrium, gets on the outside. This organ here is the uterus, or the womb, and within it is the endometrium. This is the tissue that is normally shed each month when you have a menstrual flow or a period. And it behaves normally when it flows and you have a period. However, if this tissue flows backwards through the fallopian tube, the structure here, it can land on the ovary, this white structure here, and form endometriotic cysts called endometriomas. It can run down the back of the womb and form deposits here, which can cause pain. The most common symptoms are very painful periods. You may also have infertility and pain during intercourse. Now, if the endometriotic deposits end up in other places, for example, endometriosis has been found in almost every tissue in the body. So it can be in the eye, so rarely. You may have intermittent blindness. It can be in the lung, so you can have shortness of breath, symptoms of a collapsed lung. In the brain, you can have seizures. To diagnose endometriosis, we start with the history of the painful periods. For those patients, we'll ideally do an abdominal and a pelvic examination. The gold standard test is a surgical procedure called laparoscopy. That's where we use a camera, which is inserted in through just below the belly button or the umbilicus, and using powerful lighting sources and optics, we're able to look and examine the pelvis, and then we can see the endometriotic deposits.
My journey with endometriosis began about 7 to 8 years ago when I was trying to get pregnant and couldn't figure out why. Went to the doctor, and after doing several tests, he asked about endometriosis. I'd never heard of it. And he said, well, we do a non-invasive surgery, which is a laparoscopic. They go in through the navel.
By this, we use a camera, as I said, and we use a set of surgical instruments which allow us to enter the abdomen through very small incisions, and we're able to locate the deposits, and we try to excise them or remove them from the pelvis in its entirety.
So I did the surgery, and unfortunately I had what was called a spontaneous abortion. That didn't hold. Tried again a few months later, and I got pregnant. I went to about 5 months, and unfortunately the baby died in vitro. I have not been able to ever get pregnant again.
After making a diagnosis, the mainstay of treatment is going to be dependent on your stage of the disease. So there are medical treatments, so we can use painkillers, oral contraceptive pills, surgical techniques. If you are having debilitating pain, if you're missing school, if you're missing work, then that's not normal and you need to seek the appropriate help. There are specialists who are well trained, both in terms of picking up the symptoms and making the diagnosis and in terms of treatment. And the earlier you're treated, the better the outcome is likely to be.
I think every woman should get checked because we've grown up to hear that once you have a bad period, it's a norm. Unfortunately for those of us who have it. It's not the norm. I started following Shauna Fuller's story and finding out how she found out that she had it. And I offered my services. I said, I want to spread the word. I volunteered. They have a support group. I went there and met with others. And I also got involved in the march. If you find out you have it, join the Base Foundation. Be a support for somebody. There's nothing better than just that encouraging word. And just know that there's somebody out there who understands.
I can only encourage our women, if any of these symptoms seem to be occurring to you, seek appropriate help through your local obstetrician gynecologist and be referred to a specialist.
If I knew then what I know now, that it had a name, that I wasn't alone, now that you know, don't suffer in silence.
Endometriosis affects 1 in every 10 woman and girl worldwide. In Jamaica, over 10,000 women are affected by the disease. Many are not aware that they have it.
The Cannabis Licensing Authority is committed to supporting the creation of a regulatory framework for the growth and sustainability of Jamaica's medical cannabis industry. We carefully assess application forms for businesses and individuals interested in becoming partners in the industry. Along with other ministries, departments of government and agencies, the authority endeavors to preserve the integrity of the industry through compliance. This is all done to ensure that the industry is operating in conformity with Jamaica's international obligations. Call or visit our website to find out more about the work of the Cannabis Licensing Authority.
This is the final stop in today's show. It was quite a journey, eh? Well, never let that drive for wanting more information end here. Besides, we wouldn't allow that. More Jamaica Magazine comes to your screens tomorrow at the same times. And while you wait for tomorrow, how about rewatching this and other past episodes on our YouTube channel? Also, visit the JIS's Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages for more information. From all of us here at the JIS, I'm Theodore Henry. See you soon.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.